Have you ever wondered about the ghosts that live within the walls of old houses? Not the spectral, chain-rattling kind that feature in Gothic novels, but the silent, invisible phantoms of everyday life. The echoes of a world so fundamentally different from our own. It might as well be another planet, governed by forgotten rules and haunted by dangers we have long since vanquished. Tonight, we are not just going to talk about such a place. You are going to awaken within one. We will journey back to a time of breathtaking beauty and astonishing ignorance. A time when breathtaking progress and insidious poison were often one and the same. So forget your modern anxieties about intermittent Wi-Fi signals and hopelessly clogged drains. The dangers lurking within the elegant, gaslit walls of a proper Victorian home were far more patient, far more pervasive, and infinitely more deadly. So now, find that perfect, cozy spot in the safety of your own bed. Take a long, slow, deep breath and feel the accumulated weight of your own world begin to lift from your shoulders. Allow your body to sink, to settle, to grow heavy and become one with the surface beneath you. Let go. We are heading back to 1870s England, to a world of horse-drawn carriages and arsenic lace. And trust me, by the time our story is done, you are going to be profoundly, deeply grateful for the simple, unassuming, and beautifully safe mattress you are lying on right now. Congratulations! You have just woken up in a Victorian bedroom. Your eyes flutter open, but they open to an abyss. Not the gentle, familiar darkness of your own bedroom at home. A space punctuated by the tiny, blinking LED lights of charging electronics, or the soft, reassuring orange glow of streetlights filtering through your blinds. No, this is a profound and absolute darkness. A physical presence so heavy and thick it feels like a bolt of black velvet has been pressed against your face. It's a darkness that has a weight, a texture, and even a smell. A scent you can't quite place, but which speaks of age, stillness, and the cold dust of years undisturbed. It is the kind of total blackness that has been chased from the modern world. The mattress beneath you is your first, and perhaps most intimate, introduction to the era's harsh and unforgiving realities. It is nothing like the memory foam you are used to, the way it intelligently yields and cradles your body in a soft, engineered embrace. This is a lumpy, aggressive landscape of tightly packed horsehair, stuffed into a coarse, ticking fabric that feels rough and abrasive even through the layers of sheets. You can feel the individual clumps and hard-packed valleys, a veritable topography of discomfort mapped out against your spine. And the springs, they are not the subtle, supportive coils of a modern bed, working in silent harmony. They are literal, heavy-gauge metal springs, each one a small, iron fist that seems to take a personal interest in poking your back, your hips, and your shoulders in the most unexpected and unwelcome of places. You shift your weight, a simple, instinctive act that produces a symphony of alien sounds. There is a deep, resonant groan from the heavy mahogany bed frame, a sound like an old ship settling in the water. But beneath it, there's a distinctive, dry crinkle and rustle that is certainly not your high thread count Egyptian cotton sheets. The straw. The Victorians, in their unending and often misguided quest for comfort, frequently layered straw within their mattresses for extra cushioning. The irony of it, the thought of sleeping on what is essentially sterilized farmyard bedding within what appears to be an incredibly wealthy home, is not lost on you. It's the first of many contradictions you will discover. The very air itself feels different. It seems to have a tangible quality, heavier and denser than you're used to, and it carries a complex bouquet of scents that your 21st century nose struggles to decipher and categorize. There's the faint, lingering perfume of wood smoke from a fire that died many hours ago, the sharp, almost mineral tang of coal dust that seems to coat every surface with a fine, invisible film, and a pervasive, musty odor of old wood, old fabrics, old books, and old secrets. Beneath that primary layer, you can detect the sweet, waxy smell of beeswax candles, though none are lit, and the nutty, slightly acrid aroma of linseed oil used to polish the grand. Looming furniture you can feel, more than see, in the oppressive darkness. Your own breath plumes before you in tiny, ghost-like clouds in the frigid morning air. The cold is a living thing in this room. Even in the most opulent of Victorian homes, the mornings were freezing. Central heating is a fantastical dream yet to be dreamt. The only source of warmth is the fireplace set into the wall of each room. And as of this moment, they are all cold, dark, and silent. And that is when you hear it, a sound from beyond your door that cuts through the silence. Footsteps. They are light, but quick and undeniably purposeful, ascending what sounds like a steep flight of uncarpeted wooden stairs. A soft, flickering glow, the color of warm honey and melted butter, appears in the thin sliver of space beneath your door, painting a bright line on the dark floor. The doorknob, made of cold, heavy brass, turns with a soft click, and the door creaks open on well-oiled hinges. A young woman, surely no older than 16, stands silhouetted in the doorway, a stark figure against the gloom of the hallway behind her. She is dressed in a plain, functional black dress of heavy cotton, its severity broken only by a starched white apron tied neatly around her waist and a small, crisp cap perched on her tightly bound hair. In one hand, she holds a simple candlestick, its single brave flame pushing back the immense darkness of the room, casting long, dancing, distorted shadows on the walls. This is the housemaid. Her name, you will later learn, is Agnes. She has come to light your fire before you. The lady of the house are expected to rise. This is how all proper Victorian days begin, if you are fortunate enough to be of the middle or upper class. Your comfort is her first priority, her first labor of a long and grueling day. "Good morning, ma'am," she says. Her voice is soft, practiced whisper, barely disturbing the air. She executes a small, perfect curtsy, a gesture of deference that feels both ancient and deeply, profoundly awkward to your modern sensibilities. It's a physical manifestation of a social chasm you cannot comprehend. It's just gone 6. Shall I light your fire? Before you can formulate a coherent reply, she is already moving with a quiet, ghost-like efficiency toward the large, ornate fireplace. You watch, fascinated by her practiced movements, as she kneels on the cold, unforgiving hearthstone. Her motions are economical and swift, born of endless, wearying repetition. She lays in the kindling, a handful of small, dry sticks arranged in a precise lattice structure to allow for airflow. She then carefully places several lumps of black coal on top. Within moments, a spark from her flint and steel catches the tinder, and a small, hopeful fire begins to crackle and spit in the grate. The promise of warmth, a fragile but welcome one, begins to radiate out into the icy room. "Cook says breakfast will be served at 8 o'clock, ma'am," the maid continues, her back still turned to you as she prods the nascent flames with an iron poker, encouraging them to grow. "Will you be wanting a bath this morning?" A bath. The thought is momentarily, blissfully wonderful. A hot bath to ward off this penetrating, bone-deep cold. But then, the logistical reality of the era crashes back in with brutal force. A Victorian bath is not a private, relaxing, solitary soak. It is a major household operation, a theatrical production. It involves servants like young Agnes, hauling countless heavy buckets of water, heated over the massive kitchen range, up multiple flights of steep stairs. It involves pouring them into a large, freestanding tin or copper tub that has been unceremoniously placed directly in front of the fire to keep the water from immediately turning tepid. And, most unnervingly, it involves the servants standing by while you wash, ready to provide more water, soap, and towels. The absolute lack of privacy is, to your mind, a far greater and more intrusive chill than the one in the air. "No, no, thank you," you manage to say, your voice still thick and unfamiliar with sleep. Just some water for washing, please." The maid nods, her expression impassive and unchanging. "Very good, ma'am." She curtsies again and withdraws, closing the door softly behind her, leaving you alone with the growing fire and your swirling, disoriented thoughts. She returns moments later, her arms laden with a heavy porcelain pitcher, beautifully decorated with delicate painted violets, and a matching basin. She places them on a marble-topped washstand in the corner of the room. With a soft, steaming hiss, she pours the hot water from the pitcher into the bowl, then lays out a thick, rough linen towel and a small, hard, inscrutable bar of soap beside it. "Will there be anything else, ma'am?" she asks, her eyes cast downwards. "No, thank you, Agnes. That will be all." You use the name you've somehow plucked from the air, and she doesn't flinch, so it must be correct. Another curtsy, and she is gone. The silence that descends is broken only by the cheerful, energetic crackling of the now established fire. You sit on the edge of the bed for a long moment, steeling yourself, before throwing back the immense weight of the bedding. A dense, suffocating layering of wool blankets and heavy, hand-stitched quilts. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, and your bare feet meet the floor. The shock of the cold is immediate, visceral, and intense. The floor is made of wide, bare wood planks, polished to a dull sheen, but as cold as a slab of ice in a morgue. There is no wall-to-wall carpeting here, a luxury yet to be widely adopted. There are only a few scattered, though beautiful oriental rugs, whose rich colors do little to ward off the chill that seems to emanate from the very foundations of the house. You make your way to the washstand and peer into the mirror that hangs above it. The glass is wavy and imperfect, the silvering perhaps beginning to fail at the edges. Your own reflection looks back at you, but it is subtly distorted, as if you are a portrait painted on the surface of shimmering water. You splash the hot water on your face, a welcome shock of warmth that makes your skin tingle. You reach for the soap. It's a hard, yellowish utilitarian bar that smells strongly and unpleasantly of lye. It feels harsh and stripping on your skin, leaving it feeling tight and dry, a far cry from the moisturizing, delicately scented soaps of your own time. The fire has begun to take the sharpest edge off the room's cold, but it remains decidedly, uncomfortably chilly. You look around for your clothes and spot them laid out meticulously on a valet chair near the fire, where Agnes has placed them to warm. And what a collection it is. A long cotton chemise, drawers, stockings, and the centerpiece of the entire ensemble, a corset. And that's just the foundation. Getting dressed, you realize with a sinking feeling, is not going to be a simple, mundane task. It is going to be a lengthy, complex architectural project. But first, you desperately, urgently need to use the bathroom. You scan the room again, your modern instincts searching for a door that might lead to an ensuite. There is none. Your eyes then fall upon a piece of furniture you had overlooked. A small, handsome wooden cabinet beside the bed, from which the ornate handle of a porcelain pot protrudes. The chamber pot, tucked away discreetly, waiting for its morning duties. Welcome to the unglamorous reality of Victorian hygiene. You decide with some urgency to hold it. You will get dressed first. Surely, in a house this grand, this opulent, there must be a proper flush toilet somewhere. The Victorians did have them by the 1870s. After all, though they were still something of a novelty and often a source of great pride or great, noisy, plumbing-related trouble. Dressing proves to be even more of a challenge than you anticipated. You manage the chemise and drawers easily enough, but the corset is an alien object, an engineering puzzle of whalebone, steel, and a bewildering network of laces. You know, intellectually, that it's impossible to lace it properly on your own. You manage to get it on loosely, wrapping it around your torso like a strange and rigid cage. You then struggle into the high-collared, long-sleeved day dress. The back is a series of tiny, intricate buttons that you cannot possibly hope to fasten yourself. For now, it will have to do. You open the heavy, solid bedroom door and step out into the hallway. The change in atmosphere is immediate and startling. The walls are covered in a richly patterned wallpaper, a deep, vibrant, almost impossibly green shade, accented with shimmering gold flourishes that catch and reflect the light. It is, you have to admit, absolutely breathtakingly stunning. The green has an almost luminous, jewel-like quality, catching the eerie, flickering light from a gas lamp that burns at the far end of the hall. Too bad it's probably saturated with deadly arsenic. Yes, that's right, arsenic. That gorgeous, coveted, and fashionable shade of green, known to its many admirers as Scheele's green or Paris green, was created using a copper arsenic compound. In the Victorian era, it was an absolute design sensation, and it was everywhere. It was on wallpaper, in the fabrics used for curtains and dresses, in the paint on walls and furniture, and even on children's toys and confectionery. The Victorians were utterly obsessed with this particular shade, having no idea that they were essentially gift wrapping their entire lives in a layer of insidious poison. When the wallpaper in a room became damp from humidity or was heated by gaslight or a nearby fire, it would release the arsenic into the air as a toxic, invisible gas. The inhabitants of these beautiful, stylish rooms would breathe it in, day after day, night after night. The slow, creeping poisoning would manifest as headaches, persistent nausea, skin lesions, and, in extreme cases, a slow, agonizing death. But the Victorians had no idea. They just thought the wallpaper was pretty. You make a firm, immediate mental note not to lick the walls. Not that you were planning to, but the thought now seems particularly monumentally unwise. You turn and make your way towards the main staircase, placing one hand on the cool, polished wooden banister to steady yourself. The stairs are steeper and feel narrower than you're accustomed to. Another of the many hidden dangers of Victorian homes. Uneven steps, especially on the back stairs used by the servants, were a common result of hasty or cheap construction. One misplaced foot, one rustle of a long skirt obscuring your view at the wrong moment, and you could take a nasty, bone-breaking tumble down the entire flight. This main staircase, however, is clearly a showpiece. It is grand, wide, and impeccably constructed, with intricately carved newel posts and a banister as smooth as glass. The wealthy Victorians spared no expense on the public-facing parts of their homes, the areas that visitors and guests would see and admire. It was always in the hidden areas, the servant stairs, the back rooms, the dank attics, that corners were cut, and safety was considered an unaffordable luxury. The beautiful, deadly home was, in every conceivable sense, a facade. You reach the bottom of the grand staircase, your footsteps muffled by a thick, patterned runner that cushions the wood. You find yourself in a large entrance hall, a space designed to impress and perhaps intimidate. It's dimly lit, a world of shadows and deep, rich colors. Heavy velvet curtains, the color of burgundy wine, are drawn tightly across the tall windows, blocking out most of the morning light and creating a perpetual state of twilight within. The air here is still and cool, carrying the scent of old wood, beeswax, and something else, something sharp and faintly chemical. It's the smell of the gas lamps that flicker on the walls, each one housed in an ornate brass fixture, casting an eerie, theatrical glow on the surroundings. This gas lighting was a monumental Victorian innovation, a leap forward from the dim, smoky world of candles and oil lamps. It brought a new level of brightness and convenience to homes, but it also introduced a new and silent killer. Gas leaks were notoriously common, a result of primitive piping and faulty fixtures. A slow, undetected leak could fill a room with flammable gas, turning a simple spark from a fireplace or a lit match into a devastating explosion. Or, more insidiously, it could lead to asphyxiation, as the gas displaced the oxygen in a room, or to poisoning from the unburnt carbon monoxide, a silent thief that could steal the life from a sleeping family. You look at the flickering, hissing flames and feel a fresh wave of apprehension. Every convenience in this house, it seems, comes with a hidden, terrible price. But then, a new scent cuts through the others, a smell that is universally comforting and undeniably delicious. It's the aroma of cooking food, wafting from a hallway that presumably leads towards the kitchen. You can distinguish the salty, smoky smell of bacon, the warm, yeasty promise of freshly baked bread, and the rich, dark fragrance of brewing coffee. Your stomach, which has been cautiously quiet until now, emits a low, insistent growl. Perhaps a proper breakfast will help you make sense of this strange, disorienting situation. Perhaps, with food in your stomach, you can begin to think more clearly. You follow the smell down the long, imposing hallway. You pass the entrance to a formal dining room, catching a glimpse of a massive, polished mahogany table that could easily seat 12, its chairs standing like silent, patient sentinels. You continue on into a cozier, more intimate space at the back of the house. The morning room. A smaller table, bathed in the soft light from a large bay window overlooking the garden, is set for breakfast. The table is a vision of Victorian excess. It's laden with an almost comical abundance of food, all for just one person. There are eggs, glistening strips of bacon, plump sausages, grilled fish, a rack of perfectly browned toast, muffins, pots of jam and marmalade, and a large ornate silver pot from which the strong, alluring scent of coffee emanates. The Victorians, you recall, did not believe in light breakfasts. They considered a hearty, substantial morning meal to be essential for health, vigor, and moral fortitude. You take a seat, and as if summoned by a silent bell, a different maid appears to serve you. This one is older than Agnes, with a stern, competent face and hands that are visibly red and chapped. You think of the harsh, lye-based soaps, the chemical cleaning products, and the constant immersion in scalding hot water that would be her daily reality. Household servants in these grand homes faced a battery of occupational hazards, from chemical burns and respiratory problems caused by dust and fumes, to debilitating back injuries from hauling endless buckets of water and coal up and down steep flights of stairs. "Would you like tea or coffee, ma'am?" she asks, her voice polite but devoid of warmth. "Coffee, please," you reply, watching as she pours a dark, almost black liquid into a delicate porcelain cup. You take a sip and have to actively suppress a choke. The coffee is incredibly, shockingly strong and intensely bitter, with a strange, earthy aftertaste. You remember reading that Victorian coffee was often adulterated. Expensive, imported coffee beans were frequently stretched with cheaper substances like chicory, roasted acorns, or even burnt sugar to increase volume and profit. And the milk, sitting in a small silver pitcher on the table, well, you know that pasteurization wasn't standard practice yet. In fact, that innocent-looking pitcher of milk represents another of the most insidious hidden killers of the Victorian home. Milk, a staple of a child's diet, was often sourced from sickly, city-dwelling cows and transported in unsanitary conditions. To mask the taste of spoilage, vendors would often purify it with borax, a chalky white powder that neutralized the sour taste but did absolutely nothing to kill the teeming bacteria, tuberculosis, typhoid, diphtheria that might be lurking within it. Thousands upon thousands of children, especially in the cities, died from drinking contaminated milk. You make a swift, definitive decision to skip the milk and drink your coffee black, no matter how bitter it is. The food at least looks appealing. You help yourself to some scrambled eggs and a piece of toast, but you eye the sausages with deep suspicion. Victorian food safety standards were, to put it mildly, non-existent. The concept of government regulation was in its infancy. Food adulteration was not just common. It was an art form. Your pristine white bread might contain alum or chalk to make it look whiter and heavier. Those plump sausages could include all sorts of questionable, unidentifiable fillers to bulk them out. Even the tea wasn't safe. Merchants were known to add iron filings or sheep's dung to cheap green tea to make it look like higher quality black tea and increase its weight. You decide to stick to the eggs and toast. They seem like the safest bet on the table. As you eat, you gaze around the morning room. It is a beautifully decorated space, a testament to Victorian taste. The wallpaper is a cheerful floral pattern, thankfully not green. The furniture is comfortable and upholstered in plush fabrics. But like the rest of the house, it is cluttered. The Victorians loved their stuff. Every available surface is covered with a dense collection of knickknacks. Framed photographs of stern-faced relatives, small porcelain sculptures, vases filled with dried flowers, decorative boxes, and stacks of leather-bound books. It is a room designed for comfort, but it feels heavy, almost suffocating, with the sheer weight of its possessions. Through the large window, you can see a garden, just beginning to come to life in the cool morning light. A gardener is already at work, a stooped figure in heavy boots, tending to the flower beds. You watch him for a moment and wonder, with a grim sense of certainty, if he's using Paris green as an insecticide. It was another of the most common uses for the arsenic compound, dusted liberally over plants to kill pests, inadvertently contaminating the soil, the groundwater, and the very vegetables that might later appear on the dinner table. The stern-faced maid appears silently at your elbow, making you jump. Will you be receiving visitors this afternoon, ma'am? There are already 2 calling cards that have been delivered. Calling cards, another quintessentially Victorian custom. You try to recall the complex etiquette surrounding them. People of a certain social standing didn't just drop by unannounced. They would have their footman deliver a small, engraved card with their name on it. If you were home and willing to receive them, they would be shown in. If not, they would simply leave their card as evidence that they had made the proper social effort. The whole system was a delicate, intricate dance of social obligation and subtle maneuvering. No, you say, feeling a wave of social exhaustion at the very thought. You're not ready to face complex Victorian social customs when you barely understand the basics of surviving inside this beautiful, treacherous house. I think I will go for a walk this morning. Fresh air sounds like a wonderful idea right about now. Air that isn't scented with gaslight and potentially laced with arsenic. Air away from all the hidden dangers lurking in every corner of this magnificent home. Very good, ma'am, the maid says with a nod. Shall I have your walking costume prepared? Your walking costume, of course, because Victorians couldn't just throw on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt to go outside. They required specific, elaborate outfits for specific activities. And for a woman of your apparent class, this almost always included a corset, multiple layers of petticoats, and a long, heavy skirt designed to drag elegantly in the street muck. Yes, please, you sigh, resigning yourself to the inevitable. You might as well embrace the full, restrictive Victorian experience. The maid nods and withdraws to prepare your outfit. You finish your breakfast and rise from the table, feeling slightly more fortified with food in your stomach, even if it was a breakfast fraught with peril. You wander back into the hallway, your immediate mission to locate a proper bathroom before your walk. After checking several imposing wooden doors, you find what you're looking for. A water closet, a small, chilly room containing an early flush toilet. It's a marvel of Victorian ingenuity, and you can see why a household would be proud of it. The bowl is made of ornately decorated ceramic, and a high wooden tank is mounted near the ceiling. A long pull chain hangs down, waiting. It's not exactly the sleek, water-efficient model you're used to, but it's infinitely better than the chamber pot lurking under your bed. You use the facilities, marveling at this piece of advanced technology. The flush toilet was a major step forward in public and private sanitation, but these early models had their own set of explosive problems. Methane and other gases from the primitive sewer systems could build up in the pipes. Without a proper S-trap, an invention that would be perfected by a man named Thomas Crapper, yes, that was his real name, these gases could leak back into the house. In the worst-case scenarios, if the gas encountered a flame from a nearby candle or gas lamp, it could ignite, leading to minor explosions or dangerous flare-ups. After washing your hands in a small corner basin, you return to your bedroom to find Agnes waiting with your walking costume. It's a formidable-looking ensemble in a dark blue wool, with a tightly fitted jacket, an elaborate bustle at the back to create the fashionable silhouette, and a long, heavy skirt that brushes the floor. Shall I help you dress, ma'am? Agnes asks. You nod, knowing there is absolutely no way you are getting into this contraption on your own. She helps you out of your loosely fastened morning dress and then begins the process of properly tightening your corset. You gasp as she pulls the laces, the rigid whalebone stays digging into your ribs, compressing your torso with incredible force. Not too tight, you manage to say through a restricted breath. She looks surprised, her hands pausing for a moment, but she obeys, loosening the laces just a fraction. Victorian beauty standards valued an impossibly tiny waist, an ideal achieved through the daily practice of tight lacing. This practice could, over time, compress internal organs, misalign the spine, deform the rib cage, and cause a host of chronic health problems. Layer by painstaking layer, she helps you into the walking costume. The chemise, the corset cover, the multiple petticoats, the bustle cage, the heavy skirt, the fitted jacket. By the time you are fully dressed, you feel as though you are wearing half the contents of your closet at home, encased in a beautiful, suffocating prison of fabric and bone. Your hat and gloves, ma'am, Agnes says, presenting a small, elegant hat adorned with feathers and a pair of soft, kid leather gloves. A respectable Victorian lady would never go outside with her hands bare or her head uncovered. You put them on, feeling increasingly like you are an actor in a costume drama. Finally, she hands you a parasol. It's not just a fashion accessory, but a crucial tool for protecting your skin from the sun. Pale, untanned skin was highly desirable, a clear sign that you belonged to the leisure class and did not have to labor outdoors. Fully and finally equipped for your Victorian walk, you head downstairs and out the grand front door into the morning air of 1870s London. The street is a chaotic, bustling hive of activity. Horses, fitted with blinders, clip-clop past on the cobblestones, pulling a variety of carriages, from elegant broughams to humble delivery carts. A street vendor, his face ruddy from the cold, calls out, "Fresh flowers, violets for your lady." A group of children in ragged, oversized clothes plays a boisterous game in a side alley, their joyful shouts echoing off the tall brick buildings. You take a deep breath, relieved to be out of the house with its silent, hidden dangers. But you quickly realize that the outside world presents its own set of hazards. The street is literally littered with horse manure, an unavoidable consequence of a city powered by thousands of horses. The air is thick with the smell of it, mingled with the pervasive, acrid pall of coal smoke billowing from countless chimneys. And you know that if it were to start raining, the beautiful dyes in your fashionable clothing might begin to leach arsenic directly onto your skin. Still, it feels good to move. Even restricted by the tight corset and the weight of your multiple layers, you set off down the street, your parasol held at a polite angle. You take in the sights and sounds of Victorian England, a world that is both utterly alien and strangely familiar. You notice other ladies out for their morning constitutional, and you exchange polite, almost imperceptible nods as they pass. A gentleman in a top hat tips it to you, and you incline your head in response, a silent participant in the era's rigid social choreography. Your mind drifts back to all the hidden dangers you've already encountered in just a few short hours. The arsenic wallpaper, the volatile gas lighting, the potentially contaminated food and milk, the steep, unforgiving stairs. It is a genuine wonder that anyone survived to adulthood, and yet millions did. The Victorians were nothing if not resilient, adapting to their world with a fortitude that seems almost superhuman. They didn't know about the dangers lurking in their beautiful homes, just as we, you reflect, might be blissfully unaware of the long-term hazards present in our own modern environments that future generations will find shocking. You realize with a sudden clarity how incredibly lucky you are to live in an age of building codes, food safety regulations, and consumer protection laws. All those boring, bureaucratic rules that we so often take for granted are, in fact, an invisible shield protecting us every day from the kinds of dangers that Victorians faced with a simple and often misplaced faith in progress. Your muscles are beginning to feel a bit tight from the relentless pressure of the corset, and you decide to head back to the house. You've had quite enough Victorian adventure for one morning. You turn around, watching your step with intense focus on the uneven, treacherous cobblestones. Your heavy skirts swish around your ankles as you walk, and you find yourself, much to your surprise, settling into a new kind of rhythm, a rolling gait required to manage the sheer volume of fabric. You are becoming more comfortable, more practiced in this strange and cumbersome attire. The grand house comes back into view. Its facade is genuinely impressive, with tall, elegant windows, ornate stone detailing, and a sense of imposing, unshakable permanence. Despite knowing about the hidden killers that lurk within its walls, you cannot help but admire its architectural beauty. The Victorians certainly knew how to build things to last, even if those things were trying to kill you slowly. As you approach the front steps, you notice a small but essential detail you missed earlier: the boot scraper. It's an ornate, cast-iron contraption bolted to the stone beside the door, its purpose to scrape the mud and manure of the city streets from your shoes before entering the pristine sanctuary of the home. You carefully, and with some satisfaction, clean the soles of your boots. It is one small, practical concession to Victorian propriety that makes perfect sense. Inside, the house feels warmer now that the day has progressed. Fires are burning brightly in several rooms, finally taking the persistent chill from the air. You make your way to what you identify as the drawing room and sink into a plush, overstuffed armchair, profoundly grateful to be off your feet. A soft sigh of relief escapes your lips as you settle deeper into the chair's embrace. Your muscles gradually begin to relax, and the rigid stiffness of the corset becomes slightly less noticeable as you find a comfortable position. The room is quiet, a peaceful haven after the sensory assault of the street. The only sounds are the gentle, rhythmic ticking of a grand clock on the mantelpiece and the occasional soft crackle and pop from the fireplace. Your breathing naturally slows, finding a peaceful cadence as you gaze around the elegantly appointed room, with its heavy, light-absorbing drapes and ornate, darkly polished furniture. The warmth of the drawing room makes your eyelids feel heavy, but a soft, deferential knock at the door interrupts your moment of peace. Agnes, the young housemaid, enters with a small silver tray. "Your mail, ma'am," she says, placing several envelopes and a folded newspaper on the small table beside your chair. "And cook would like to know your preferences for dinner this evening." You blink, trying to imagine what a proper, multi-course Victorian dinner might even include. The thought is exhausting. "Whatever cook recommends will be fine," you reply, taking what feels like the safest and easiest option. Agnes nods and withdraws, leaving you with your correspondence. You pick up the newspaper first. It is the Times, dated May 12, 1878. So that's when you are. The headlines speak of political tensions with Russia, of spirited debates in Parliament, and of various society events and scandals. You scan the columns quickly, but find nothing about a modern person mysteriously appearing in a Victorian home. Thankfully, the envelopes contain elegantly printed invitations to teas, to dinner parties, and to a charity bazaar. Apparently, your Victorian self is quite the social butterfly. You set them aside, feeling far more interested in continuing your exploration of this house and its many hidden dangers. You rise from the chair, feeling the immediate and unwelcome constraint of your corset as you do. The Victorians really did themselves no favors with these fashionable torture devices. Restricted breathing, compressed internal organs, permanently deformed ribs, all in the name of achieving a socially acceptable, unnaturally tiny waist. And that's not even mentioning the chronic back pain and muscular atrophy caused by the weight of all these heavy skirts hanging from your artificially compressed waist. No wonder Victorian women, even the healthy ones, were always fainting. And speaking of fashion dangers, you know that many of the beautiful clothing items in your wardrobe are likely dyed with toxic substances. That vibrant emerald green dress you admired earlier almost certainly contains arsenic. The beautiful jaunty red flowers on that hat you saw, likely colored with a pigment derived from mercury. Even the makeup you saw on the dressing table, the powders to whiten the skin, the rouge to redden the cheeks, would have contained lead, belladonna, or even more arsenic. Beauty, you realized with a shiver, was quite literally poisonous in the Victorian era. You wander out of the drawing room and down the hall, your curiosity leading you to a handsome, imposing door you hadn't opened yet. You turn the knob and enter what appears to be a library. The room is a sanctuary of quiet and scholarship. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, crafted from dark, heavy wood, line the walls, filled with thousands of leather-bound volumes. A large, formidable writing desk sits in one corner, complete with a silver inkwell, a blotter, and a neat stack of writing paper. The room smells of old leather, aging paper, and beeswax polish. It's peaceful here, a space seemingly removed from the bustle of the household and the dangers you've discovered. You trail your fingers along the spines of the books, reading the gold-embossed titles on history, natural philosophy, poetry, law, and classic novels. A large, handsome globe stands in one corner, its surface showing the vast and sprawling British Empire, proudly colored in pink. Next to it, a tall glass display case contains various curiosities. Seashells from distant shores, interesting fossils, a collection of minerals, and a stuffed exotic bird. Its brilliant blue and green plumage still vibrant, even in death. Taxidermy, you recall, was hugely popular in Victorian homes. They had a passion for collecting and categorizing the natural world, a desire to bring nature indoors. Whether it was in the form of pressed flowers, seashell collections, stuffed animals, or cases of perfectly pinned butterflies. But you know now to be suspicious of beauty. The methods used to preserve these specimens, to keep them from decaying and being eaten by insects, almost always involved arsenic soap or mercuric chloride. Even their most beloved decorative items could be deadly. You move to the large writing desk and sit down, curious about what your Victorian self might have been working on. A half-finished letter lies on the blotter, written in a flowing, elegant hand that is definitely not yours. It speaks of garden plans and an upcoming visit from someone named Charlotte. You dip a pen into the small glass well of ink, admiring the deep black color. It's almost certainly iron gall ink, the standard writing ink of the time. You know that it contains tannic acid, a corrosive substance that, over the centuries, can literally eat through the paper it's written on, leaving behind a lacework of holes where words once were. Not an immediate danger to you, of course, but it's yet another reminder that even the most mundane, everyday items in this era possessed hazardous properties. A soft, melodic chiming from the clock on the mantelpiece tells you it is now noon. The house seems to have come fully alive while you were lost in the library. You can hear more movement from the servants' quarters at the back of the house. The staff must be preparing the midday luncheon. You rise and continue your exploration, moving back into the hallway and towards the rear of the house. You're curious to see the kitchen, but you feel that it would be a breach of etiquette, an impropriety, for the lady of the house to intrude on the cook's domain. Victorian homes operated on strict, almost military-like hierarchies, and everyone knew their place. Instead, you find yourself in a smaller room that appears to be a kind of home office or business room. A simple desk contains large, leather-bound household account books, stacks of receipts held together with string, and various other documents. This is the nerve center of the household, where the practical, unglamorous business of running a Victorian home would take place. You carefully open one of the account books, fascinated by the meticulous, looping script. Every single penny spent is accounted for. Wages for the servants, purchases of food from local merchants, deliveries of coal, yards of dress fabric, and donations to various charities. Running a Victorian household of this size, you realize, was essentially like managing a small, complex business. The entries for coal deliveries catch your eye. The sheer quantity is staggering. These homes went through enormous amounts of coal to heat their many fireplaces, the only source of warmth in the drafty, poorly insulated rooms. The resulting coal dust and smoke were, of course, a major health hazard, contributing to a host of respiratory diseases and the infamous, thick, yellow London pea super fogs. Actually, a toxic smog created by coal smoke combining with natural fog. You close the book and your eyes land on a tall cabinet in the corner. You open it and find it filled with bottles of medicine and various household remedies. You pick one up cautiously, reading the elegant, printed label. Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup for children teething. You nearly drop the bottle as a jolt of recognition and horror runs through you. You remember this product from a historical documentary. It was one of the most popular patent medicines of the era, and its primary active ingredient was morphine. This soothing syrup was, in essence, liquid morphine given to babies by the spoonful to stop them from crying. And it certainly worked. It stopped the crying by drugging infants into a stupor or into unconsciousness. Some never woke up. You carefully replace the bottle, your hand trembling slightly, and check a few others. There is laudanum, a tincture of opium mixed with alcohol, a common remedy for everything from pain to anxiety to a simple cough. There are arsenic pills, advertised as a complexion improver for ladies. There is a box of female pills that promises to cure all obstructions and irregularities peculiar to the female form, a vague euphemism that likely meant it was an abortifacient. The Victorian medicine cabinet, you conclude, was a veritable poison cabinet by modern standards. And these were legitimate, commercially sold products, not some back-alley concoctions. It is a genuine wonder that anyone survived their treatments. A soft knock at the door interrupts your snooping. It's the stern-faced maid again. "Luncheon is served in the morning room, ma'am," she says. You thank her and make your way back to the cozy room where you had breakfast. A light meal has been laid out. Cold meats, bread, cheese, and fruit. Simple by Victorian standards, which is fine by you. You eat cautiously, still deeply wary of food safety. The bread seems fresh, at least, and the fruit has been carefully washed and peeled. You decide to risk the cheese, but you avoid the meat. Better safe than sorry. After lunch, you're not sure what to do with yourself. What did Victorian ladies do with their long, empty afternoons? You remember reading that the hours between 3 and 5 o'clock were reserved for making and receiving social calls. Perhaps you're expected somewhere. But no, the maid would surely have reminded you if you had any formal engagements. You decide to explore the upper floor again, curious about the rest of the house. The main staircase creaks slightly under your weight as you ascend. You peek into several more bedrooms, and then you find the nursery. It's a cheerful room, bathed in the pale afternoon light, with alphabet blocks and simple wooden toys scattered about a rug. But your newfound knowledge casts a dark shadow over the innocent scene. You notice a beautifully painted rocking horse in the corner. Its bright red and green paint almost certainly contains high levels of lead. Lead paint was standard for children's toys, furniture, and room decorations. Children, being children, would inevitably chew on their toys or their crib rails, ingesting the sweet-tasting lead and suffering devastating, irreversible neurological damage as a result. Next to the rocking horse sits a beautiful doll with a porcelain head and a fabric body. Its rosy cheeks are probably painted with lead or mercury-based pigments. Even the fabric of its dress might be dyed with toxic chemicals. You back out of the nursery, feeling a fresh wave of appreciation for the mundane, boring, and utterly vital work of modern toy safety regulators. Your exploration continues, and you find a sewing room. It contains a table with a hand-cranked Singer sewing machine, a relatively new and exciting innovation for home use in this period. Beside it are baskets of fabric, spools of thread, and various sewing notions. You run your hand over a piece of stunning, emerald green fabric, then jerk it away as you remember the arsenic dyes. Better not to touch anything too colorful. A dressmaker's dummy stands in the corner, its waist cinched to an impossibly small dimension. You measure it with your hands and guess it's about 18 inches around. Your Victorian self must be truly dedicated to the art of tight lacing. From the window in the sewing room, you have a good view of the back garden. It's a formal, geometric affair with gravel paths and a small, burbling fountain. The same gardener you saw this morning is at work, spraying something on the rose bushes. More arsenic, you presume. Paris green was one of the most common insecticides of the day, contaminating the soil and everything in it. You turn away from the window, feeling slightly overwhelmed, almost dizzy, from the sheer cumulative weight of all these hidden dangers. Every room, every object, every beautiful thing in this house seems to harbor some potential for harm. How did the Victorians survive? But they did survive, you remind yourself. They were resilient, adaptable, and largely unaware of the chemical and biological risks they lived with every day, just as we probably live with hazards that future generations will find utterly shocking. This house is not just a home. It is a museum of dangers we have long since conquered. Back in the drawing room, you notice it has grown significantly darker outside. The short winter day is already fading into a deep, velvety dusk. A maid, likely Agnes, enters the room as silently as a passing thought. She moves with a practiced grace from lamp to lamp. You watch her turn the small brass keys to release the gas, then use a long, wax-tipped taper to light each one. The flames ignite with a soft pop and a hiss, casting a warm, inviting glow that pushes back the encroaching shadows and makes the rich colors of the furnishings seem more vibrant, more alive. It's beautiful, you have to admit, a soft and romantic light that is undeniably alluring, despite your knowledge of the dangers it represents. The silent threat of carbon monoxide poisoning, a quiet killer in so many Victorian homes, lingers in the back of your mind. People would go to bed feeling slightly unwell, with a dull headache, and simply never wake up, killed by the odorless gas seeping from faulty fixtures while they slept. "Will you be changing for dinner, ma'am?" the maid asks, her voice pulling you from your morbid thoughts. You had forgotten about that particular Victorian custom. Changing into formal clothes for the evening meal, even if you were dining alone in your own home. The prospect of getting out of this already restrictive walking costume only to be encased in something else, and then changing again for bed later, seems utterly exhausting. But you are a participant in this world, not its master. Yes, I suppose so. You sigh, a quiet resignation in your voice. You follow the maid up the grand staircase to your bedroom, where she helps you out of the heavy wool walking costume and into an evening dress of midnight blue silk with delicate black lace trim. It is a gorgeous garment, but just as restrictive as your day clothes. The dress features a modest bustle at the back, an essential framework worn under the skirt to support the elaborate draping of fabric and create the pronounced posterior silhouette that was the height of fashion. You know that these strange contraptions, often made of wire and horsehair, made sitting down an awkward affair at best. At worst, they could collapse embarrassingly or, far more dangerously, catch fire if a lady backed too close to a fireplace. Properly attired for the solitary formality of dinner, you make your way back downstairs. The main dining room, which you had only glimpsed earlier, is now fully lit and set for one. The massive table gleams, its darkwood reflecting the light from a crystal chandelier overhead. A single-place setting of fine china, sparkling crystal, and an intimidating array of silver utensils has been laid out with mathematical precision. You see multiple forks, spoons, and knives flanking each side of the plate. You know that Victorian dining etiquette was a complex and unforgiving science, with a specific, unique utensil for every conceivable food item, and that using the wrong one would be a significant social faux pas. A footman, a tall, imposing figure in livery, stands rigidly by the sideboard, his expression carefully neutral. You sit down, and he steps forward to place a heavy, starched linen napkin in your lap before serving the first course. A clear soup in a delicate, translucent china bowl. You eat carefully, self-consciously, acutely aware of being watched and silently judged on your table manners. Each course is small but exquisitely prepared and presented. Soup, then fish, then a meat course, then game, then vegetables, then a rich pudding, then cheese, and finally fruit. The sheer excess of it all, for one person dining alone, is staggering. You can only manage a few polite bites of each offering. The footman serves you a small glass of sweet dessert wine. You sip it cautiously, your mind immediately going to the various additives that were common in the era, lead to sweeten it, or other stranger ingredients used to improve its color or clarity. By the time the elaborate meal concludes, you are exhausted not from eating, but from the sheer effort of maintaining a proper, rigid posture and navigating the complex silent service. Victorian formality, you conclude, is wearing even when you are the only one at the table. "Will you take coffee in the drawing room, ma'am?" The footman asks, his voice a low monotone. "Yes, thank you," you reply, rising from the table, grateful that the ordeal is over. Back in the drawing room, you sink into a comfortable armchair near the fire. The day has grown truly cold as night has fallen, and the warmth is a welcome comfort. You notice a crystal decanter of brandy on a side table and briefly consider a nightcap, but you decide against it. You have no doubt that Victorian spirits were just as likely to be adulterated with harmful substances as anything else in this house. A maid brings your coffee on a silver tray, setting it on a small table within your reach before withdrawing as silently as she appeared. The coffee is strong and bitter, as it was this morning, but the warmth is comforting. You gaze into the dancing flames of the fire, contemplating everything you have learned, everything you have seen, about the hidden dangers of Victorian life. It has been less than a full day, and you have already identified dozens of potential hazards. From the arsenic in the wallpaper to the lead in the paint, from the volatile gas lighting to the toxic patent medicines, from the dangerous, uneven staircases to the contaminated food. And yet, there is a strange, undeniable charm to this world as well. There is the incredible attention to detail in the craftsmanship, the formality that lends a sense of significance to even the smallest daily activities, the clear social boundaries and expectations that, while restrictive, provided a sense of order and meaning. It is utterly alien to your modern sensibilities, but you can begin to understand why the people of this era might have found a certain comfort in their highly structured, beautifully decorated, and deeply ordered existence. The clock on the mantelpiece chimes 8. It's still early by your standards, but in Victorian times, especially during the long, dark winter, people often retired early to conserve expensive candles and lamp oil. You finish your coffee and stand, stretching discreetly within the unyielding confines of your corset. Your back aches from the unfamiliar postural constraints, and you long for the simple, blessed relief of being free of all these layers. The house has grown quiet now. You can hear the distant, muffled sounds of the servants moving about on the lower floors, finishing their evening duties. Soon, they will bank the fires for the night and retire to their own Spartan quarters, typically located on the cold top floor or in the damp basement. You make your way upstairs to your bedroom, holding your heavy skirts carefully to avoid tripping on the grand staircase. The gas lamps in the hallway have been turned down to a soft, conspiratorial glow, just enough to see by. Your bedroom feels welcoming now. The fire is still burning cheerfully in the grate, and Agnes has already turned down the bed, laying out a long, white cotton nightgown on the coverlet. You reach behind you, fumbling with the impossible buttons of your evening dress. You'll need help undressing just as you needed help dressing. The dependency of a Victorian woman of means was absolute. You ring the small bell pull beside the bed, and within moments, Agnes appears. She helps you out of your evening dress, unlaces your corset, a moment of pure, blissful relief, and assists you into the simple nightgown. "Will there be anything else, ma'am?" she asks. "No, thank you, Agnes. Good night." She curtsies and withdraws, taking your discarded clothing with her to be brushed and aired for the morning. Alone at last, you exhale deeply, feeling your ribs expand fully for the first time all day. You climb into the high bed, sinking into the slightly lumpy straw and horsehair mattress. The fire has burned low, casting a gentle, flickering light across the room. Once it dies completely, you will be in total darkness until morning. You settle deeper into the bed, pulling the heavy quilts up around your chin. And despite all the hidden dangers you have discovered, all the poisons and perils, you feel strangely, deeply at peace. Your body relaxes into the unfamiliar mattress, finding a certain comfort in its firm, if uneven, support. The soft crackling of the dying fire creates a soothing rhythm that seems to match your own slowing breath. Your eyelids grow heavy as you watch the shadows dance across the high ceiling. But then, a soft whimpering sound from down the hallway reaches your ears. It's the sound of a child crying. Curious and moved by a feeling you can't quite name, you slip out of bed. You pull on a heavy dressing gown that was laid across a chair and, without a candle, you follow the sound down the dark hallway. It leads you to the nursery you explored earlier. The door is ajar. You push it open slowly. In the dim moonlight filtering through the window, you see a small figure sitting up in a child's bed, tears glistening on round cheeks. It is a little girl of perhaps 5 or 6 with long dark hair. "Mama?" she says hesitantly, her eyes wide as you enter. "So your Victorian self has a child after all." "I had a bad dream," she says, her voice small and trembling in the dark room. You move to her bedside and sit on the edge of the bed. "It's all right," you say softly, your voice a soothing whisper. "It was just a dream." She looks at you with complete, unquestioning trust. You smooth her hair back from her forehead, noting that her skin feels warm, perhaps a little too warm. Fever was a constant fear. You sit quietly, watching as her eyelids grow heavy again. She stirs slightly in her sleep, and her small, warm hand finds yours in the darkness. You hold it gently, feeling a sudden, fierce surge of protectiveness for this unknown child who believes you are her mother. You sit there for a long, long time, just holding her hand and listening to the soft, rhythmic sound of her breathing. A gentle hand on your shoulder wakes you. You open your eyes, momentarily confused. You are still sitting on the edge of the child's bed. Your candle has burned out, and a woman in a simple dark dress, the night nurse, is standing over you. "Ma'am," she whispers, "you fell asleep in the nursery." You carefully extract your hand from the sleeping child's grasp and make your way back to your own bedroom, navigating the dark hallway by memory. The house is utterly, profoundly silent. You slip back into your own bed, grateful for its relative comfort. As you lie there, waiting for sleep to reclaim you, your mind drifts back to the child, Charlotte. What kind of life would she have in this beautiful, dangerous Victorian world? An education focused on accomplishments, not intellect. A body disciplined by corsets and restrictive clothing. A future defined by marriage and the immense risks of childbirth in an era before modern medicine. You shiver not entirely from the cold, The past, you think, is indeed a foreign country. For all the romanticized visions of Victorian life, the reality was far harsher, far more precarious than most modern people could ever truly realize. You burrow deeper under the blankets. The fire has died completely now, leaving the room in an inky, impenetrable darkness. The wind howls outside, rattling a loose window frame somewhere in the great, sleeping house. You feel yourself growing drowsy again, your mind slowing, the unfamiliar sounds and smells of the house becoming almost comforting. Tomorrow will bring more discoveries, but for now, sleep beckons. The heavy quilts create a warm, safe cocoon around you. Your last conscious thought is of Charlotte, sleeping peacefully in her nursery. Then sleep claims you, carrying you away from these questions into dreams of gas lamps and horse-drawn carriages, of corsets and calling cards, of a world both familiar and utterly, terrifyingly foreign. You feel a wave of dizziness wash over you. The drawing room, the child, the house. It all blurs and shimmers around you. You close your eyes tightly against the sudden, overwhelming disorientation. And when you open them again, you are no longer there. You are lying down, but not on the lumpy Victorian mattress. This bed is different. It is soft, yielding, familiar. Memory floods back in a dizzying, exhilarating rush. Your own bed, your own room, the 21st century, the entire Victorian experience, the full, exhausting, terrifying day was just a vivid, intricate, all-consuming dream. You lie perfectly still for a long time, adjusting to this profound realization. Around you, the familiar shapes of your modern bedroom gradually become visible in the dim, gentle light. There are no gas lamps hissing on the walls, no arsenic-laced wallpaper, no treacherous staircase waiting to trip you in the darkness. Instead, your home contains smoke detectors, carbon monoxide alarms, circuit breakers, child-proof locks, lead-free paint, and countless other invisible safety features that you have, until this moment, always taken for granted. They are innovations developed over decades, often in direct response to the very tragedies caused by the dangers you just experienced in your dream. You reach out and touch your bedside lamp, clicking it on. Electric light floods the room, clean, safe, and available at the touch of a button. No servants required to light it. No risk of fire from an open flame. No toxic chemicals involved in its operation. The contrast between your modern safety and the Victorian peril is so stark it takes your breath away. We have come so far in protecting ourselves from the hidden killers that once lurked in plain sight in every single home. But your dream has given you something else, too. A new, strange appreciation for the Victorians themselves. They weren't fools, and they weren't deliberately reckless. They simply didn't know what we now know. They embraced new technologies and products that they believed improved their lives, completely unaware of the dangers these innovations sometimes introduced. And they were, you realize, remarkably, astonishingly resilient, adapting to a world filled with hazards that we would find utterly intolerable today. You settle back against your pillows, feeling a new and profound gratitude for the safety and security of your modern home. Your bed cradles you comfortably, free from lumps and poking springs. Your room is warm without the need for a fire that might die during the night. Your water is clean. Your food is safe. Your medicines are tested and regulated. These are not luxuries. They are the legacy of scientific advances, public health campaigns, consumer protection laws, and countless small, hard-won improvements over the decades. Progress that often came at a terrible cost. The illnesses, the injuries, and the deaths that eventually revealed the hidden killers and led to the safer alternatives we now enjoy. Your eyelids grow heavy as you contemplate this silent, life-saving evolution of safety. The comfortable weight of your own blankets presses you gently into the mattress. Your modern bedroom, with all its technological conveniences, wraps around you like a protective cocoon. You yawn, feeling sleep approaching again. But this time, it is a different kind of sleep. There is no anxiety about what dangers might lurk in the darkness. There is no worry about gas leaks or arsenic dust or structural hazards. There is just the peaceful, unshakable certainty of modern safety standards and building codes. Your breathing slows, becoming deeper and more regular. Your mind, no longer filled with thoughts of hidden killers, grows quiet. And then you cross over, sliding gently and gratefully back into a true and peaceful sleep, protected by the invisible shield of modern life.